So I heard this the other day. I think it was MSNBC, but I thought it was very perceptive for whoever it was on MSNBC. Quote, they know he is lying, but they enjoy that he is lying and getting away with it, end quote. And it made more sense to me than anything I've heard in 20 years about the culture. Can I get away with an affair? Can I not pay my taxes? Can I skip school? Can I sell someone a lemon when they need a car? Cash in on the rise in real estate values? Can I convince myself I'm contributing to humanity, reading the Bible, obeying the commandments, all acts for which I am promised eternal bliss? All involve a little bit of fibbing. 45% of the world is Abrahamic. The 55% left, the rest, includes 16% non-believers, and therefore 39% are Hindus, Buddhists, Confucians, etc. I'd not fit in any of these squads. A religious man said to me once that atheists deny the existence of God but replace him with an equivalent. I said, no, but I think there is much to this argument these days. So for me, there are many, and that has made all the difference. Sarah Horowitz, if you haven't heard, you are missing a very clear part of the picture in Gaza and the bigger picture of Western civilization in general. To be sure, this is not just a light shed on Zionism and or Judaism. It is Americanism, Englishism, and they, of course, are united in fantasy. That lot, us lot, who, in our various mumbo-jumbos of validity, inevitably assume we are a race apart. An apartheid race. Today, I heard a well-paid fellow repeat a contemporary whinge. Men are emasculated because they cannot support their families. Chung, chung, chung. And these men are therefore scooped up by right-wing populism because they are emasculated. Well, I put it out there that much work these days is emasculating, corporate, well-paid work, because the society assumes that a well-paid job magically masculates. Most likely working for Amazon is, emasculating, and well-paid talking heads will reiterate that work confers dignity and makes men feel manly. Except them, I suppose. I put it out there that certain kinds of work do this. It helps when they're adequately paid and management light, not just any work, the comfortable presumption of capitalists. I overheard a young man on the bus describing his day at work in Manhattan, a story of fear, of downsizing, not being liked by a superior, hoping he didn't inadvertently insult someone. You've been in offices. A girlfriend of mine had risen to VP of a software company in the late 70s. In the late 80s, she quit a 6-figure salary and international travel because it was meaningless. She tried again in the mid-90s in the same business and quit in 6 months in a kind of despair. The talking heads can and will roll eyes and say something about gratitude and Protestant ethics and continue to blind eye the discontent among the better paid. Perhaps they could cast their eyes at the growing value, really the only value left in the global north, of ever more wealth, insatiability, looking vainly for the masculine or the meaningful and never finding it, no matter how many zeros are on their paycheck. The new show about the Marines is fascinating. Very impressive young fellows telling us they want to kill. That especially for guys, this is necessary to carry out a test, a critical test they must pass. Otherwise, they will have failed if they do not kill. Trained as snipers and convinced that Islam is full of devils, their very real masculine instinct to protect their country and each other is heady stuff, real stuff. One can understand it. One tries to remember when one ever had that notion that to be a man, one had to kill other men. I can't remember it, but I don't think it's inherent. I don't think it's a darkness in them. I think it's an impulse that just is interesting. And there are many variations. Jihadists, the IRA, the Sakari resistance movements over thousands of years strike for or strike back for their people. the people they identify with, their tribe or their culture. Muhammad Ali's resistance to the draft was incredibly profound. He dared judge the actual value of his own group. He said, "This is not my group." The U.S. society that would send him to war, the presumption of sending him to war was that he was part of the group that is the U.S. society and found it not worth it. The threat to his life was not the Viet Cong, he said. And I'd agree. I'd say that the 1% world we have become is much more threatening to America's poor and working class than immigrants and Arabs. So the 1% culture spins the tale that the Marine is protecting our freedoms and way of life. What is being used here? Who is using it? And what damage is being done with these instinctual essentials? History is a fun lesson over and over. Somebody asks me, rather tells me, my prose is unpersuasive, and my response after digging a bit in myself was that I'm not trying to persuade. Ha ha ha. There are other reasons for uttering. He suggests there's only one other, and that it is self-serving. More things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your. He wishes to persuade, or rather to win. The game is played at that low level, so insults become a thing, mocking. Phrases like, "That's rather disingenuous." You only make that charge when it is a tool you use yourself. History happened, then it is painted and hangs in museums and is visited by people who pay to see it. Usually the demonizers in discourse are also fantasists. As history taught is meant to persuade, it is fantasy. It is used by elites to persuade the people they rule that what makes them happy is rooted in this history. There is a rub, a hook. Why would we need this strenuous myth to make us happy? Our sense of self has been placed there by our myth makers, not consciously, but over the centuries. Gradually, after the lightning strike of individual genius, say Jesus, there is always Paul to slow it down, spoon-feed in terms the generation before the storm understood. In this schooling process, we, the children, are told who we are. The great eruptions of revelation are denied us. The considerable human imagination is lashed to its psychological needs. The problem with boys is a failure of myth. It is elaborate, full of rituals and role models, but these have failed to capture a whisper of masculinity exactly because they are not found. The problem with boys following Andrew Tate is that it is not useful for boys to follow anyone. Please create following boys, and he is perfect. He is their natural rebellion. That you demand they follow, pick a clown, rather than freeing them for the great voyage of discovery is not Tate's fault, it's yours, O purveyors of leaders. Culture has no issue with influencers now rampant, only with which ones. They will cluck, then find a kosher one until he or she fails or is found in bed with a preteen. Of course, this is all rooted in the rather sick need of persuaders. The art of persuasion, the essence of school and what is taught in schools and temples, the concept we never question till it is too late, feeds too many weak egos to be easy with, just as no king's movement is which king movement. So no brainwashing is which brainwashing. There are more things in heaven and earth that are dreamt of in your philosophy, maybe Shakespeare's most signature stroke. It topples all towers. Each boy and girl contains multitudes, and you did once too. You preachers and teachers, your own desire for a solid, safe, approved of by your boss's self left you vulnerable to the influences of your moldy texts, and disastrously permitted you to think this spouting was anything at all. But on you spout. Like the king thing, it is not what is the answer. The search for the answer is all, as much as its readiness. It is, let's go look for it. This doesn't work. Don't reiterate or pray harder. Move the F on.